listeners. Welcome to another episode of Romance Unraveled. This is one of your co-hosts, Jacob Bozen. We won't have Zach with us again on this episode, but today we have a very, very special guest. Her name is Michelle Scharf. She's one of my best friends. Michelle and I actually met on a campaign. I believe it was in 2020 when COVID was going on. And the funny thing is, she is a little older than I am.
Just
Um,
slightly.
and a lot of people think it's really weird that I am almost like pretty much best friends with someone who's my mom's age, but we get along very well and we connect very well. So Michelle, let's have you introduce yourself so the listeners can get a sense of who you are.
I'm Michelle Scharf. I am a life coach, primarily focused on resiliency, but also grief recovery after a great loss. And I have my own podcast I've been doing for 4 years, over 200 episodes, called Relentlessly Resilient, available wherever you get your podcast. And it's a podcast based on true life stories of people that have gone through really hard and difficult challenges and the tools of resiliency and moving forward in spite of the difficult lives that we all have.
Yeah, it's a super good podcast if the listeners want to head over there and take a listen to that as well. Michelle actually ended up having me on one of her episodes. She hounded me for about a year and a half to come on, and I finally did.
Yeah.
So you can have my episode on there as well. But today, what we're going to be talking about is super another crazy dating relationship story that Michelle had about 2.5 years ago, somewhere in that range. And it was with somebody that I just completely thought who was perfect for her. And it turned out that he was a little bit of a monster. And I guess we're going to call him the stalker for this episode. So, Michelle, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So I met this guy on, I think it was Tinder, which is kind of funny because Tinder in Utah isn't just like a hookup site. Like people use Tinder as a dating site here, not just to hook up.
Right.
And although that's what the big thing about Tinder is, but really in Utah, people use it like just a dating app. But I met him on Tinder and met him at a pizza parlor. It happened to be my friend's pizza parlor in Provo. And I had a nice time with him. When I first met him, I thought, oh, this guy is just too nerdy for me. He's a software developer, programmer, super smart dude. And that was really exciting for me. Like as far as like the intelligence and what I perceived as emotional intelligence as well. And we had a lot of fun together. You're right. Like you did think that he was so perfect for me, and things were going really well for a good year. And then it was coming up on his daughter's wedding, and we had just gotten back from Spain. And he had been talking about moving in. His son was heading into his senior year, and he was going to live with me every other week. So we didn't have quite the commute. And that was on a Saturday night. And on Sunday morning, just a little background on me. My husband passed away 6 years ago. And so this had been like 4 years after my husband passed away. I got woke up that Sunday morning after we had been having this conversation about him moving in with me and us going to North Carolina for his daughter's wedding. And it was really an interesting experience. It was 5 a.m. and I woke up and I felt my husband's hand on my back as if he was waking me up to kiss me goodbye to go to work, just like he'd done a million times in the 32 years we had been married. And I woke up and rolled over to kiss him goodbye. And I hear this voice say, you need to let, we're going to call him the stalker, go. And I thought, why? Like, we had so much fun. He's a foodie. I'm a foodie. We love to cook together. We dance after cleaning up the kitchen every night. Like, we were just having such a fun time. Like,
I remember you telling me this story. It's all coming back to me now, about your husband visiting you and telling you to let him go.
yeah,
And I remember when you told me, I was like, why? Like, you guys are so great together. I remember when we were doing our vision board day right before I moved to DC, and he was
yeah,
there, and it was a big group of us, and Ab, Abby, who was on the second episode for the podcast, she uh was with me, and we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, oh my God, they are like so perfect for each other. So when you told me that you had that experience, it was it was really weird for me.
yeah. It was weird for me too. And the crazy thing about it was I heard that voice and I I knew it was my husband, but I won't necessarily say that voice sounded like my husband, but like I knew it was coming from him. And of course he's dead. And I thought, why? Why would I do that? And um then I had this feeling of peace wash over me. And I fell back asleep and I woke up at 8 a.m. And I thought it was so profound when I woke up and I remembered it so clearly. And I had such a calming feeling about it. And I'm like, I need to trust this. I, I, I'm big on energy and intuition. And I thought, I don't know what's going on here. And I don't know why this would happen, but I'm just going to call him and I'm just going to ask him a question and we'll just see where this goes. So I called him up and I said, hey, and I said, I just had a really strange experience and I need to just ask you a question. I need your first response. I just need you to give me your very first response. And he said, okay. And I said, do I need to let you go? And he's like, oh, well, my first response is that this really hurts my heart and I feel really heavy. I need to really consider this and think about it. And so I'm like, okay. And and I knew right then it was over because for me, hesitation is a no. It's either a hell yes or it's no. Like that's just the way I operate. Might sound crazy to some people, but that's just like my rules for living. So I was really struggling all morning. He called me back 4 hours later and he said, let's meet at this park. So we just gotten back from Spain. I had some gifts that he'd picked up for his kids and some things that we bought each other matching or coordinating aprons because we cooked together. And I just thought, I'm not going to want any of this shit at my house. Like, I know where this is going and I'm just going to bring it. So I brought all of those items with me and he shows up at the park and I can see him walking towards me and he's like 20 feet away from me and he's like, yeah, 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 we just need to break up. We just need to break up. And I was just like so floored because even though I knew it was happening, I was also so confused because I'm like, you were literally just talking about moving in with me, and this was his idea. And I wasn't sure how I felt about it. And yet he's the one that's going to break up with me. I'm like, it just seemed like it was coming from out of nowhere. And
Right, because you had this experience, nothing seemed that it was out of
yeah,
place, at least from my perspective, and I'm assuming from your perspective as well.
oh,
But
yeah.
then you had this experience where your husband visited you, and then it all came together where you're like, wow, I actually do need to do this.
Yeah. And so I left and I had a lot of peace about it. But even though I had peace about it, I was still very confused. And so we broke up and I don't have a ton of dating experience, but I'm not really accustomed to people that once you break up with them, they call you up again. And every couple weeks, he would call me up on the phone and was like just checking in on me and was like basically, oh, well, he had gone to the first time he called me, he had gone to North Carolina with his family for his daughter's wedding. and he's sharing with me videos and stuff. And I'm thinking, why is he sharing me video? Like, I'm supposed to be there with him. Like, why is he doing this? Like, to me, it felt just so strange. And like Jacob said, we had done this vision board class together. And one of the things we did is we did a couples vision board. And so we had all of these things that we wanted to accomplish in the next coming year. And so this relationship was like forward thinking, forward moving, and it was very intentional. So for this to come, it just seems like out of nowhere. And so when he first called me, I was like, "Oh, that's really nice. Oh, that the Father's dance that you sent me made me cry." And I was just being kind about it. And then he kept calling me while he was there and sending me pictures of him and his kids out doing things and some beach art that he'd done. And we had done some beach art when we were out together. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool, whatever." And I just thought to myself, I had still had our couples board hanging up. And I thought, I need to end this energy. Like, I don't want to continue this relationship. For whatever reason this happened, it must have happened for a purpose. And for my husband to wake me up in my sleep and like redirect me, I'm like, okay. So I said to him, I'm like, when you get some time in the evening where you're alone, I'd really like to talk to you. And he called me and we FaceTimed, and I took that vision board out and I said, I need you to watch this. And I have a gas fire pit out in my backyard, and I lit it up and I threw the vision board on it to incinerate it, and it, caught on fire. And I was
Did not
watching
know
him.
that.
Yeah, I was watching him watch it, and I could see that it was really painting him. And I was just like, I'm very confused. Like, why did he feel that he needed to break up to me? There was really no clear indication as to why he was breaking up with me. It was weird to me. I'm like, why is he calling me? This was his idea. I just merely said, "Do I need to let you go?" That's all I ever asked. And then it undid the entire relationship. So the next year goes on, and basically he was reaching out to me every 2 or 3 weeks, which was basically when he was in between opportunities for him to date, is what I think. And, he was kind of inquiring, like, if I was dating. I wasn't really telling him, I wasn't being honest with him, because at this point, I'm like, you don't get to know anything about my life. It just kept going like this every 2 or 3 weeks, every 2 or 3 weeks. And I finally said to him, like, we just need to end this thing. Well, he decides, and he does, he leaves me alone for like a month and a half. And then he's like, "Hey, we had a date on that vision board and I'd still like to keep it." And it was the year to the day that we met. And I can't really remember what that date was now. I think it was like September 5th or 6th or something like that. And he decides, like, I would really like to go to Ruth's Chris. So he takes me up to Ruth Chris Steakhouse in Park City, Utah, which is a very nice restaurant. We eat, we have a lovely meal. We he puts his arm around me. We walk outside. We had a nice little time together, but we had this conversation while we were talking, and he was holding me, and I'm like, I really enjoyed my time with you. I don't really understand why this all happened, but there's some things that he started to tell me. And he started to explain to me that he is a Mr. Nice Guy, which he had told me this in our relationship, but I didn't really understand what that meant. And there's an entire book written by, I should look it up. His last name's Glover. He was like, "You really need to read this book, Mr. Nice Guy." And so I get the book. It's Robert Glover. No More Mr. Nice Guy. That's the name of the book. And so I get the book and I read it, and I am just like blown away. So
Yeah, I
blown away.
remember you calling me and telling me all about this book, and it sounded just like how he behaved with you.
Yes. So like there's a part in the book that talks about like everything a Mr. Nice Guy does is like a bid for permission for or kindness because they're doing something else behind your back. So like one of the things that was so refreshing about him is like I had a husband for 32 years. We lived very independent lives. We didn't go out a lot together, but like he rarely opened my car door or opened my car door for me or whatever. Well, this guy would be offended if I didn't let him open the car door for me. And I'm like, we're here at Costco. Let's just go and get our stuff and leave. Like, why do I need to wait for you to come open my door?
That would drive
Like,
me
if I was,
crazy.
yeah, in the car, whether we were showing up at somewhere, like when I was getting in the car, I'd always have to wait on him. And honestly, I'm a type A personality and I'm a bit of a feminist, not a raging liberal feminist, but I am a feminist. It drove me a little bit crazy, but also there was a part that was a little bit like, oh, this is so, he cares, right? Like I saw it as like a bit of affection, and I saw him like wanting to do something kind for me, which seems so ridiculous when I think back at it now. I'm like, that's such a minor thing. But in the book, it talks about this, and it talks about how these little things that they do are little either bits of affection that look really great on the surface, but underneath that, it's hiding the fact that they have a massive porn addiction, typically, and this guy did. And anyway, the book was just so revealing to me about the whole relationship. And then I got a hold of a couple other books on narcissism. And there's the first book is like really just like an overview of narcissistic personalities. And then it's a three different books that I read. And I realized this guy might not only be a Mr. Nice Guy, but I think he might be a covert narcissist. Now, I'm not saying that he is, I'm not a psychologist, but I've done a lot of research, and I was doing a lot of research at the time because I really felt like my whole world had gotten turned upside down. This is somebody who I went to Spain with. We saw my favorite band in Spain, and we went to a Duran Duran concert in Ibiza. Like, I thought this is a guy that like I was going to have adventures with, and we were talking about building some different businesses, and like he touched on my entrepreneurial spirit, and I just was like, oh yeah, this is so awesome, it's going to be amazing. And then turned to find out like most of that was just talk, and most of it was just kind of like this dance of keeping me so busy with thinking about all of these things and what they call future faking, where they get you excited about future plans and stuff, and they keep you moving in the future. And you have to realize at the time, I had been stuck in living very much in the present. I'd lost my husband. The future was way too daunting for me to even think or plan. And this guy really got me thinking about my future and like, what is it that I want and what am I going to create? And I started to like, and I think that that's why you thought he was a good match for me, right? Because
Yeah, I think all of us were seeing that, like not only me, but Abby and my friends, but also I think a lot of your friends were having the same perspective as well. So,
yeah.
at what point did it start going really south where
Well,
the
after that meeting at Ruth's Chris, and first of all, when the server came to the table, he's like, "Hey, are you celebrating anything here tonight?" And he's like, "Yes, we're celebrating our first anniversary." Well, funny thing is that evidently he was dating somebody else at this point, like actively dating them. And he had set his phone on the table and did not realize he had called this woman. And
Oh my
went to
God, I
her voice.
remember.
It went to her voicemail. So she heard all the conversation that we were having. So they obviously immediately broke up. But Anyway, it was quite an ordeal. So that was like in September-ish. He called a couple more times and I just said, I really need to move on. I really need you to stop contacting me and we just need to be done with this. And then I had gone to on a cruise. And the day I came back from the cruise, I had gotten back from the airport early that morning, then had a ton of appointments with my son who was living with me at the time. And I got home that evening and he was sitting out in front of my house. And at this point, I am talking to some of my friends who are in law enforcement. And I have a friend who was like top security of with CIA and intelligence, and he's an attorney and a detective now for the state of Utah. And so anyway, they're used to working with like a criminal mindset. So I called my friends, there's two of them, and they said, Michelle, this guy is a stalker. Do you understand what a stalker is and where that term comes from? And I'm like, no. And they're like, you sound like every woman that's in the morgue.
Oh, goodness.
And I was just like, are you serious? Like, I was a little bit in disbelief. And he's like, yeah, he's keeping tabs on you. And he's trying to keep you as an option. And but you don't really know what that option is for. And if he decides at any point, he's like, it's always the nice guy who everyone's like, I would have never thought that so and so would have done that, right?
Yeah.
And and they're like, you need to file a report and you need to get this documented, and this is what you need to do. So I started documenting everything. I had text messages from me telling him, we are done. Do not come to my house. Do not show up. And then he showed up at my house. And then I'm like, I actually went out with him to dinner that night because I was terrified, actually. I didn't want him to come in my house. And I thought, he's like, please let me take you out to dinner. So we went to a little restaurant close to my house. And he's like professing all of his feelings for me and that he wants to get back together with me. And I told him, I said, I need time to think about this. I need you to go, whatever. And so he left. And after I knew he had enough time, he lives an hour away from me. I said, I appreciate you coming over here, or I appreciate your interest, but I'm no longer interested and this needs to be done. Please do not contact me again. Well, I have this podcast and I had my dance instructor come on and we were talking about his dance stuff. And of course, this guy was listening to my podcast. He knows that I have this podcast. So he got the great idea that he should show up at my dance instruction.
Can't even
So he
believe it.
walks in and I'm in the middle of dancing and I'm in the middle of a turn and I get spun around and I see him walk in the door and I immediately run up to a girlfriend and I immediately go into the bathroom. And the girlfriend's like, you are not welcome here. I had already put the dance instructor on notice because I was a little bit concerned that he might be bold enough to do that. I didn't really believe he would, but I thought, hey, I just need to let you know this could happen. And in the event that this happens, like, I don't want to be here with this guy. And he's like, that guy is not welcome in my studio. So she immediately told him, but actually the owner didn't even have to address the guy. My girlfriend handled it and just said, get the F out of here. And he turned around and took off. But that woke me up to realize this guy's not going to let me go. He is just going to keep coming back over and over and over again. And I was getting a lot of criticism from girlfriends, ironically, in the singles world, about how, oh, he's not really a stalker. Oh, you should just have some man talk to him, whatever. And I just decided I don't need anyone to take care of me. and I went ahead and filed the paperwork, and he got an attorney and he fought it. And so we ended up having to go to court. On the day we went to court, I guess he was getting a new job and he was in Boston. So he was by video chat to the court. The judge was really an interesting guy. I later found out that the judge had been a widow himself, and he actually didn't like these stalking laws. Like he finds some fault with the way that the law is written here in the state of Utah. But he asked him, he's like, well, why did you because he kept asking him his thoughts on me and how I behaved in the relationship and all these things. And he was always saying how great I was, how great I was, how, she's awesome, she's amazing, she's all these things. And I was terrified. I was shaking the whole time. Like, even though he was on video camera, I was like, I don't know what happened here, but there is something really wrong. And so anyway, the judge made a determination, and he said, so I don't really like these stalking laws, he said, but I'm going to tell you what, this is exactly the case that these stalking laws are written for, and I'm going to grant the stalking injunction. So it was granted. He can't contact me for 3 years. I'm getting a little bit nervous. This year, we're leading up to our second year of this being in place. I don't know what he's doing in his life. I'm not really sure about what's going on with him, but I'm just like, I don't know was that enough for him to like be okay, this is done? Or is he just going to wait out the stalking injunction and then show back up and say, let's make this try to work again? I don't
Right.
know. Like, it's that part of it's a little bit unnerving to me. I'm in a relationship with someone else right now, and I'm glad he's not here because he hates hearing anything about anyone I've dated. He knows enough about this situation, but like everyone that's listening today, knows more than he does at this point. But because he just doesn't, I mean, he's kind of a traditional guy, and he just likes to believe that I only was married to my husband and I've only dated him.
Which is not true.
Which is not true by a long stretch, and he knows that, but he just he doesn't want to hear about it. He would rather not know. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, that whole situation was really disturbing, right? Like, you don't expect to be in a relationship with somebody and then find out after the relationship's over that they've got this personality issue and that they're a nice guy, and all of their niceness is about hiding things that they're not being honest with you in the relationship. I also learned a lot about attachment and how he is very much an avoidant personality, and he comes on very strong and very love bomby, which was amazing because he carried it on for a year. Like, a lot longer than most people with these type of personalities can really do. And there was no break in it. Like, I never saw him not being kind and nice, and I just thought he's wonderful. Like, such a great guy.
Yeah,
And
that's how he appeared to all of us as well, like I've said. So I feel like a lot of people probably have come at you in the past, and maybe even after this, is they're gonna think, well, if he was doing all these things and had all these problems, why did you keep seeing him even after the relationship had ended? I
right.
think I know the answer is probably because you were scared, but I think you should touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, like when he showed up at my house, I got a lot of flack for that because I actually got in the car and just went to dinner with him. I did reach out to a friend. I did say, I want you to know, he showed up at my house. I'm in the vehicle now. I'm gonna go to this dinner, but I'm not gonna eat, and I'm just gonna see what he wants and get this done with. Um, but I went because I legitimately was afraid, and it was January. It was freezing cold outside. I didn't want to be in my house. And I just thought, if I do this, he'll finally leave me alone. But when I heard him professing his feelings for me, I realized I need to get home safely. So I kind of played it. And I did kind of play the game a little bit. I didn't lead him on, but I was kind and nice. And when we got home that night, I actually did even let him in my house for a few minutes. And I just felt like I was trying to say goodbye to him in the nicest and kindest way that I could. And then when he left, I was like, okay, for real, like, please do not come to my house. Like, this is the second time I've sent him this message. And then, of course, he shows up again the third time at my dance studio. Like, it was never going to end. And, at first, the reason I kept having contact with him was because I wasn't sure why we broke up, and I was trying to figure it out. I was curious and I was trying to understand, like, why would my husband have come to me and why is this, kind of a let him go thing. We were only talking on the phone. We were not seeing each other for those 6 months of these phone calls every 2 or 3 weeks. But it was enough that it would upset and disturb my life, right?
Right.
So yeah, I know I have been hit on that a few times, but the reality is, unless you're in the situation, you don't really know what you're going to do, and you just do the best that you can do in keeping yourself safe. I will say I did go after talking to my friends before I filed any charges. I went and talked to the domestic violence here in Davis County where I live, and they told me to get this book called I'm gonna forget the name of the book. It's something about trusting your instincts. I got that book and I read it and I realized my body was physically telling me you are not safe and you need to get out of this situation.
I'm glad you listened to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
is
So
crazy.
it's a real famous book. I wish I could. I know we're running short on time now, but like everyone that's dating should read it because it's like if you're having a physical reaction in some relationship that you're having, you should trust that. There's a reason for it. Your inner voice, your body is telling you you need to get to safety. Oh, it's called The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah, this story, like I was in DC by the end of it, and you would just call me periodically and tell me what the updates were, and I just remember thinking, there's no way that this is happening because it everything was going so smooth before I left, and now he's stalking you. Like it was really
Great.
crazy to hear.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else to this story that you would like to add or clarify?
No, I think that you do your best in the dating game, especially at this age. I'm 55. We're seasoned enough, but we have a lot of things. And I've worked with some women in my coaching groups that are dealing with grief and getting back there in the dating group. Um, if you don't love yourself, you're not going to choose yourself. And if you are looking for validation in a man, whether that's because you never had a father that loved you or you didn't have a father in your life to tell you you're good, and didn't have an honest a good relationship with you, then you're trying to fill that childhood wound inside these relationships. And I had to take a deeper dive into some of my issues and I realized that I'm looking for a person that is safe, right? So like that's the most important thing is to find somebody that is truly safe, and that takes time.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think that's some really good insight. I mean, a lot of us can learn from your experience alone about listening to our gut and using our intuition a little bit better. But yeah, Michelle, it was great having you on. Crazy stories as always. I'm sure we'll have you on for more episodes, but for
I
our
have a million
listeners,
of them.
yes, so I'm sure you'll be on a little bit more. Um, for our listeners, remember to subscribe and save. We're streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And then you can follow us at Romance Unraveled on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time.